John, the Mariners made a huge trade since we last talked. Winter meetings have kind of come and gone. There's been a lot of discussion in the Mariners land. So we're going to have a talk about that today. We're also going to obviously talk about the Seahawks versus the Colts, what happened last week against the Falcons, as well as give our value dog picks, a bunch of other small stuff, a bunch of little sprinkles scattered throughout this podcast. So it's going to be a fun one. Lot to talk about. Anything to say before we give some Coyote Picnic to those podcast listeners?
Always do such a good job, Tyler. You never leave me anything to say. I always want to get a word in before we send it to Coyote, but I got nothing.
All right. Well, for those of you on the pod, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, here is some Coyote Picnic. We are going to stay live on YouTube. Okay. John, Harry Ford got traded to the Nationals with, I don't even remember who was thrown in, but one of the other players for the Mariners who was like a maybe like top 50 prospect, like really a nothing burger with regards to him. But it was basically Harry Ford for Jose A. Ferrer on the Nationals. Give me your gut reaction, and then give me kind of talk to me about what you've heard from people, because I've got my own takes, but I am not in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm not as ingrained in the daily life of the Seattle Mariner fan.
Yes, so I'm in a great position to provide the layman's opinion because I myself am a layman. Harry Ford is a name I've heard a lot the last couple of years, mostly talking to you. I know that he was, angling into our backup catcher role, and that hopefully in the coming year he was going to take a little time off of Cal's plate, behind home plate. But I've never seen him play a game. I don't really know what he was going to bring to this team. What the people are saying is they're upset. Now, obviously, this team addressing relief pitching is a need. So it's not like this trade didn't do anything for the team. But from what I'm hearing, Jose Ferrer is not someone that's particularly special. And the concern is that Harry Ford was a guy that should have been a big part of this team in the next year, especially, Cal, all the reps he put in last year, the idea that maybe he needed a little bit of a break in 2026. A little bit more DHing, a little less catching, and they've hurt the option to do that, as well as the major concern, which it's almost a traumatized response, is this a return of the Seattle Mariners management that we have all been afraid would come back after some very positive signs, going and getting really good important players for this franchise, re-signing Josh Naylor so quickly. It's like, okay, are we a new franchise? The concern is we're backsliding. Yeah,
so there's a few things there. I think the first thing that I want to talk about is why I think that the dealing of Harry Ford is okay, because at the end of the day, Harry Ford as an asset was somebody that we thought could be a featured piece for a real teammate, a guy that we could have traded for Josh Naylor at the deadline, and we would have been comfortable for that. And to get him traded, or to trade him for a reliever, doesn't make a ton of sense, in terms of just value. As a Mariners fan, I get where people are coming from. A couple things with that. Harry Ford is... people don't like to use the word blocked, because if you play well enough, you're gonna play yourself into a position on the field. Doesn't matter what you do. If you play well enough, you're gonna do that. And I think, for all intents and purposes, he is generally blocked by Cal Raleigh. He would get backup catcher time, but the problem with being a backup catcher as somebody who is not playing every day at Harry Ford's age and at Harry Ford's learning curve means that his learning curve is actually distorted quite a bit, because he's not going to play every day. He's not going to get those everyday reps with the team, batting every day. And that's kind of the key to forming an MLB player, is getting those consistent reps at the MLB level. Otherwise, you're in for a day and then you're out for 3 days, and you're you can't get consistency in your at bats. So that can cause definitely some issues there for Harry Ford. And I think a couple things about that is that teams knew that. The Mariners couldn't come in and be like, hey, do you want this guy who we kind of discreetly floated as somebody who could play second base or shortstop or center field? The Mariners kind of tried to do that for the last couple of years, and it didn't really work. It just the Mariners could not get any teams to bite on that, and I think that was the problem there. I think they also realized that was probably not something that he could provide for them for this team, in terms of he couldn't come and play third base for this team next year. It's not like Harry Ford has that potential. And so they know that he's blocked, and other teams know that he's blocked in that context. So other teams are not going to offer him or offer the Mariners a ton. That being said, Jose Ferrer, whatever it is, is a good pitcher. He is, at the very least, in my opinion, on maybe like the slightest bit below Matt Brash in terms of where this Mariners relief pitching lineup stacks up. And Matt Brash is a very, very good reliever, right? It's like Andres Munoz is a top-tier reliever. Matt Brash is like just a step below him because of his strikeout stuff, but he just has a little bit of a walk problem and just injury history, things like that. And then there's Jose Ferrer now. He's our... Basically, if you're saying Bizardo who had an amazing season last year, if you're saying Bizardo now moves into the 4th spot, like that's a really, really solid relief pitching staff that is going to get better, going to get bulked up with the return of Thornton, and just some injuries that we had last year. And at the same time, this is a return that like Gregory Santos was supposed to be, and he just never ended up being. And we were excited about getting him. So this is like the 3-headed monster that we were expecting 2 years ago. It's just the Mariners kind of had to accelerate that process by trading Harry Ford for it. So fans don't like it. I think the problem was that the Mariners didn't get a lot of value, but they are going to get a ton of value out of Jose Ferrer. Like looking at his Baseball Savant page, you look at his pitch distribution and how things were working. And the thing that I think we'll see the Mariners do a lot of is you look at his slider metrics, and he's got like a batting average against his slider of 105, expected batting average against it of 116, and he threw that pitch a total of 90 times last year, compared to 747 sinkers, 265 changeups, and 106 four-seamers. The Mariners see this guy as their like next man up, and he's just going to throw slider after they're going to throw slider after slider and then just sinkers, and he's maybe going to throw a changeup every once in a while. But this guy, his four-seamer doesn't work, right? His four-seamer doesn't really do anything. So we're not going to see a ton of that, but his everything else, like his sinker, changeup, slider, like that's going to be what this guy does, and it's going to be electric. Like this guy is going to step in and be able to do exactly what Gabe Spire is able to do, but he generates, his ground ball percentage is insane, right? He's in the 99th percentile in ground ball percentage. He doesn't walk guys. He doesn't let guys get the barrel on the ball. He doesn't strike out a ton of guys, but that's not the point. He gets people to put the ball in play at an elite level. And he's got great velocity for a left-handed pitcher, average fastball velocity at 97.7. Like these are just great tools, great things that the Mariners pitching staff we know will be excited to use. So there was a lot that I just said. I think I just monologued for a whole 7 minutes, but you take a stab at it.
That was beautiful. Thank you for that. I also have his Savant page open, so you were bringing up a lot of the things I was going to say. Ground ball percentage, 64% of the hits that he induces are ground balls. That's unbelievable. Yeah, I love the idea of the Mariners staff seeing 9% four-seam, 7% slider, and just saying, how can we get that to 0% four-seam, 16% slider. So that will be fun, I'm sure. Also, shout out to Baseball Savant, our single favorite site for getting all these baseball statistics. They've got their little timelines up at the top of the page. 83 days until the World Baseball Classic, 104 days until opening night. So thanks, Baseball Savant, for keeping me informed. Yeah, I guess this is encouraging, and I will just say again, I was getting all my analysis off the street, and it was pretty conclusively negative. But when I look at this guy, and this is my classic argument, particularly with baseball prospects, is like, okay, this guy's a real bird in the hand. This guy made.
I've been waiting for 7 minutes for you to say this. And you say it every year.
This guy appeared in 72 games last year. He pitched for 76 full innings, and he was really good. 4.48 ERA. That always gets elevated in clutch minutes, and a 1.27 WHIP is something I really like to see. And I'm sure this staff is looking at this guy and saying we can make him better. Another thing to note, he's 25 years old. Harry Ford is 22, so it's not like we traded this guy for a 30-year-old. This guy has some run in him. I don't know what his contract situation. I'd like you to speak to that in a minute, but I guess just the last thing I want to say on it is I also want you to evaluate on the, traumatized Mariner fan panic meter. Was this just a 10 over panic? You guys need to chill. Look at the value this guy's going to provide a team that we hope competes, and forget about the 22-year-old that was not going to be a big part of our team in 2026. Because I'm starting to feel that way. I'm starting to feel like, wait, was this actually a pretty sly move by Dipoto to fill a big need with a guy that was not going to play a lot for us? So address that and then tell me what his contract is, because that's obviously a part of this as well.
Yeah, so right now his contract is estimated for $820,000 this year. We'll just get this out of the way. Contract estimated for $820,000 this year. He's pre-arb, and then next year he'll hit arb 1. So the Mariners will.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's okay,
a really good spot. He's not even an arb 1 yet. Okay, that's fantastic.
So it's a really good spot for the Mariners, and I think they'll be happy to have him as long as he'll stick around, and as long as they can come to an agreement on every single contract. But at the end of the day, I think in terms of the overreaction spectrum, in that 1 to 10 that you gave, I think Mariners fans are actually okay to react this way. I think it's like an 8. I guess it's like a 2. I understand their reaction. I get it. Everybody has been in love with the idea of Harry Ford for the last what feels like 3 years. I think we drafted him in 2021, maybe 2022.
I've heard a lot of Harry Ford talk over the last couple of years. I've never seen him play.
What it was he was our top prospect coming out of, I think of the 2021 draft, and it was like, okay, we picked up this guy. He's going to be like a cornerstone player of this franchise, and it feels like to trade him away for a reliever just doesn't feel significant enough. But to get, and this is what fans are missing, is everybody loves prospects because of the idea of them being great. This guy is great and will help you win the World Series this year. That is the level of the caliber of pitcher that this guy is, and Mariners fans are not looking at it from that perspective. Along with the fact that Harry Ford's blocked, like we've said already, but that combination means that Harry Ford providing value to this team when it comes to winning a World Series, which is, at the end of the day, as a baseball organization, the end goal is to win a World Series. And if you're not doing that, if you're not progressing towards that, it's just not even really worth it. This trade makes sense. We've got Colt Emerson, we've got Cole Young, we've got Ben Williamson, a bunch of young guys coming in, Feldman Celestin. All of these guys are going to be capable young players. We don't necessarily need to look at Harry Ford, who was the 86th ranked prospect. Colt Emerson, we've got 5 guys ranked higher than him at this point. There's just so much good talent in this system. And for that matter, it's we didn't need Harry Ford. We've got Cal Raleigh for the next 5 years. That's his contract. Cal Raleigh's going to be here for 5 years. Harry Ford's going to be 27 by the time he's going to be able to be a starting catcher. And for the Mariners,
that's assuming we get rid of Cal. I don't want Cal gone in 5 years.
That's the thing. It's we're looking at this Harry Ford is going to be this great piece, and at most, in terms of WAR, Harry Ford is going to be providing a half win every single year because he's just not going to play. So you really have to look at that. Mitch Garver is a guy who I'd never loved over the last 2 years, but I think if we can get him on a cheaper deal, it feels much more significant for this Mariners team to have Mitch Garver as the backup catcher, and he's been with this staff. There's things the Mariners can do to have a backup catcher and not have to worry. And I think they're on the right track. The Harry Ford deal is, I get it, I understand, but at the end of the day, this is a good deal for the Mariners.
I guess the last thing I have to say on it, just as we're wrapping up this overreaction, underreaction part of the conversation. Yeah, you said a couple important things there. One, Jose is probably a little bit underrated because his ERA at 4.5 is pretty high. But when you look at some of his advanced statistics and you see what he can do with the ball in his hand, you see where the vision is. He had a pretty high ERA. He was in the top 10 in appearances for relief pitchers last year. He got a ton of work in his first full season in the majors. So the Nationals saw something in this guy too. So I just think he's got a lot of room to grow and improve, not even necessarily in his counting statistics, but just in the way he faces certain batters to get that ERA a little bit down. And then, the other side of this is, again, Harry Ford is a guy, his name is big in Mariners circles, but his star has just been dropping over the last couple of years. People have not been particularly impressed with his development, particularly his power in the lower leagues. And, you're seeing number 42. I'm seeing other lists where he's as low as 90. I just don't know.
I think he was in the 40s, his early on in his prospect career, and he's dropped every single year. He's dropped basically every time, and now he's in the 90s. You're correct.
Yeah, correct. So again, we're trading a top 10 in appearances relief pitcher. We're bringing in to help bolster this unit, and we lost a guy who had 6 at bats and generated 1 hit last year. So, I can't get over the degree to which, this is a good deal, I think. I think this is a good deal. I'm setting the overreaction meter at a 7. I think people need to calm down and see what you're getting and what you really lost.
Yeah. One more note. the Nationals should feel good about this trade too. The Nationals didn't have a catcher. They now have their catcher that's potentially their guy for the next few years. Like, that's a good deal for the Nationals as well, to turn a reliever into what you hope is somebody who's going to catch for your team for the next few years. Like, that's a really good deal if you can get value out of Harry Ford. So I think it's a win-win for both teams. Like, at the end of the day, as long as the Mariners get value out of Jose Ferrer for these next couple of years, which is their winning window, like, I'm okay with that. If they can extend it even more with their prospects, that's awesome. But you got to win now if you're going to win it all, because this team is poised to do so. So some exciting stuff going on in Mariners fandom, and a lot of interesting stuff in terms of the winter meetings. We've heard so there was an article about Alex Bregman's potentially talking with the Mariners in their front office, and I just don't believe in that. I don't believe the Mariners would want Alex Bregman. I think it's more of I think there was a Mariner Mojo pod on, and they were talking a little bit about how it's kind of a Scott Boras move, and that makes sense. They're trying to get Bregman as much money as possible, get his name acquainted with those teams that need a third baseman. It just makes sense. But I don't think the Mariners should be involved in that.
That would be the all-time, like, sitting here now, I'm like, fuck Alex Bregman. I want nothing to do with that guy. If the Mariners signed Alex Bregman, I'd be so excited. I'd forget about all my hate in an instant. But right now, he's not on the team, and the hate is still very much in my heart. So screw that guy.
Yep. So I think there's that. There's the Geno Suarez talk, the Polanco talk. That's all happening. I think we'll see that come to fruition here in the next month or so, probably in the next couple of weeks, to be honest. So stay tuned over your winter break, kids, and get excited for this Mariners offseason. It's going to continue. All right, moving on. We're going to jump immediately to the Seahawks. It's the Seahawks. We're coming into NFL Week 15, and they just played the Falcons. Last week was Week 14. They played the Falcons, and they smacked them around. It was a close game to half, but John, what were your reactions coming out of that one?
Yeah, just another really good game put together by the Hawks, surrendering 3 field goals over the course of the game after shutting out the Vikings the week before. I think a lot of people saw that Titans game and were just a little bit flustered at how did the Titans hang around like that, but I think it's okay to officially see that as a blip. They've had, if you put the Titans game aside, which they won and was just kind of weird, other than the Rams game, they've had 4 straight dominant blowouts of NFL teams. So, again, some of these teams have been lower tier, but you can't overrate the fact these are all NFL rosters, and the Seahawks have absolutely shellacked 4 of their last 6 opponents, if we're looking at it honestly. So, a great win by them. There are individuals we can talk about, but just doing their business, I think, when you look at the Hawks.
Yeah, what it really feels like is the Seahawks and I think we've talked about this before, but they've solidified themselves as like the upper brass of the NFC. Like it's the Eagles maybe, but it's like them or the Seahawks, the Rams, and then whatever other team you might want to throw in there. But it's there's really not a ton of other teams that I would feel scared going against as a Seahawks fan. The people that I'm terrified of are like the Rams because of their defense and Sam Darnold in a big game. But other than that, like everybody else, I feel so confident in. We're going to talk about this Colts game later, but like I even feel confident in this, and there's something to be said for the Colts in their situation right now. But in general, like the Seahawks have been dominant. Some really cool stuff too. They're winning in all ways, right? Rashid Shaheed with that 100-yard touchdown return on the kickoff. Just like exciting things happening. I like to see Shaheed get a little bit of explosive plays going on. He's been a little bit lackluster, I think, since we traded for him. So that's been very good. And yeah, this is the Darnold get right last few weeks. Like he had a really good game against the Titans, good game against the Vikings, good game against the Falcons. Like he's just played really solid football, and he learned a lot, I think, from that Rams game. And so we're going to see how this translates to the end of the season. But this has been a very, very good stretch for the Seahawks team. Yeah. Anything else you really want to say about this Falcons game?
Falcons specifically, I will shout out Charbonnet, had a good game. Kenneth Walker is struggling on the ground. Those two continue to jostle for fantasy points. They're basically, Charbonnet's got double the touchdowns. Kenneth has 1.5 times the yards. So they're just keeping each other completely irrelevant. Sorry to all those fantasy owners. But I will say JSN, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. He continues to, I think, put the bows on his offensive player of the year, standing. I think with the way that Jonathan Taylor's fallen off with the Colts and the way Jahmyr Gibbs has been awesome, but he started very slow. What Kenneth has done start to finish this year has been very, very impressive. He only has 2 games on the year, I believe, finishing under 90 yards receiving, and his touchdown marks are crazy too. So I do believe he will be the offensive player of the year in 2025. Just continues to dominate.
Yeah, he's in that minus 300, minus 400 range at this point. I think it's pretty locked up. I think the big thing for him is the touchdowns. Like if he's just having the yardage, it's a little questionable. But the fact that he's scoring so much is a big attribution to his MVP or offensive player of the year candidacy.
Yeah, he's going to cross the 10 mark as a receiver, and he's also going to creep towards 2,000 yards receiving. Probably more realistically something like 1,600, but he's been unbelievable.
Yeah. All right, man. I think I don't really have anything else to say other than, the Hawks held Bijan to 86 yards on 20 carries. That's a good sign, right? That's a good day by the Hawks defense, and we knew that happened, that didn't allow a touchdown. So good stuff coming from them. Let's jump to this Colts game. This Colts game, you're going to, and a lot has changed in the last month for this Colts team in a negative way. So I want you, as our resident Colts fan / expert, to give us some more discussion on this Seahawks Colts game. What's going on? What's with the Phillip Rivers thing?
Yeah, I can't tell you guys how bummed I am. I like rooting for the Seahawks here, but I am a Colts fan. That's my team, and what a precipitous collapse these last 4 weeks have been. The crazy part is, other than this last game against the Jags, it hasn't even been bad. They lost, a really close one to the Chiefs, a really close one to the Texans, but then Jags game, Daniel Jones tears his Achilles on the second drive of the game, and the wheels just come off, as you could expect when you put in a rookie Notre Dame quarterback to try to do the job against a playoff team like the Jags. So
Notre Dame taking shots right there.
Show up, man. Show up if you don't want to be made fun of. I won't mock you to your face, but I will absolutely mock you to your back, and they're showing everybody their back. So this is a really tough spot for the Colts. This is a very talented roster that is now missing the most important position in football. They have attempted to solve that problem by adding 43-year-old Phillip Rivers?
44.
4-year-old Phillip Rivers to the practice roster. I think Aaron Rodgers is blushing. He's now the second oldest quarterback in professional football. Phillip Rivers is a grandfather. Fun fact for you people out there. I'm pretty sure his oldest has a kid, which is just pretty crazy to think about.
Nuts.
So we got a grandpa playing quarterback. I'm not even sure, especially because he's been in for such a short time. I kind of hope they don't. If they are planning on starting him, maybe you don't do it against the Seahawks.
No,
I get the idea that you'd be feeding Riley Leonard to the Wolves here as well, but this defense is so good. And
Devin Witherspoon would decapitate this man. It's going to be bad.
Be gentle out of respect is the only thing I can think of, but Jesus Christ. So the Colts are in a very tough spot here. We'll talk a bit. It'll come up in value dogs, but I do think there's some reasons to just be a little bit careful with this game. But this is one that's really important for the Hawks, is part that can't be underrated. It's in Seattle. It's really important. They're still, they're tied in record, but behind in tiebreaker to the Rams. They're a game ahead of the Niners. It's so hilarious. The Seahawks have had one of the most dominant seasons in football this year, and they could still absolutely miss the playoffs because the NFC West continues to be just an absolute juggernaut. Somehow the Niners are 9-4.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and they have Rams-Niners in 2 of their last 4 games. So this is a must-win for the Seahawks, and obviously they got to bludgeon the Panthers, and then they have to win either the Rams or the Niners games, and they will make the playoffs. But this is do or die time for both teams. Colts are also in the wild card hunt, and they need this one badly. But I imagine whoever rolls out a quarterback, Seahawks will be able to take care of business.
Yeah. Everything about this game screams just like the Seahawks are going to put a smackdown on them. And like you said, we'll talk about it probably a little bit more in value dogs, but this game, I would imagine the Colts, whoever is at quarterback, is just going to hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor 36 times. Jonathan Taylor is going to get a lot of opportunities here. And if the Seahawks can just stuff the box and limit outside edge breaks, they'll be just fine. So I think this is a solid spot for the Seahawks here. Looking ahead, this Panthers game is interesting because the Panthers actually play the Buccaneers twice in the last 3 weeks. And so the Panthers kind of can lose and they'll still be okay. They still have a fighting chance when it comes to they need to beat the Bucs twice. That NFC South division is just all over the place. But so I would expect, the Seahawks need a couple of wins there. And once if they can get to 12 or 13 wins, I would feel very, very comfortable with them at least making the playoffs. For this game, I think Sauce Gardner's even out for the Colts here this week. Expect JSN to go for 130 yards in this one, and Sam Darnold to feel very, very comfortable on offense. Other than that, any other Seahawks thoughts? I feel like this is just like, hey, the Seahawks should win this game. It's the Colts, and they are battered and bruised. Any other thoughts before we move to some value dogs?
Just that this is a game that they should win. I fully expect them to win, and to come prepared and to win this game on defense. Mm-hmm. I would encourage fans to not underestimate the talent on this Colts roster on both sides of the ball. I'm not sure it's going to be as much of a cakewalk as you're describing for Sam Darnold and JSN offensively. I think the Colts secondary is pretty good when healthy. And then, again, this is arguably the best offense in football that just happens to be missing a quarterback that has any level of competence. But their offensive line, running game, receivers, tight end, they're just incredibly deep and talented. So this is a game the Seahawks absolutely should win. But we'll talk about it in value dogs. I could see this game being a little bit interesting. And if the Seahawks take their eye off the ball, and if they're looking ahead at the Rams game, this is a game they could blow.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. The line right now, for those of you listening, is 13 and a half, or 14 or 13 and a half, depending on where you look. It's a very large line. We'll talk about it in value dogs, I suppose. All right, let's jump to some value dogs. For those of you that are new here, for those of you that haven't been listening to value dogs before, this is a thing we've been doing for 3 years, and we basically pick value dogs or underdogs against the spread. We each pick 3 every single week, because underdogs statistically do the best against the spread. That's just how it's been for the last couple decades. So we're trying to follow that trend, use that to our advantage, because Vegas loves people betting on the favorites. So we're gonna take some underdogs here, and we each pick 3. Last week we both went 2-1 with a couple different picks here. So John taking the lead, or solidifying his lead. He's at 19-17 on the year, and I'm at 17-19. Right, and as a unit, we're right at 500. Underdogs on the season are 101, 103, and 4. So right about even as well. We're just doing a little bit better than the underdogs on their own. Home dogs have done a little bit worse, but everything's basically 50%, right? Everything's basically right around there. So those are the stats, giving you guys a little bit of knowledge about what's going on here. John, take it away with your first pick.
Yeah, together we're just about even, but I'm not just about even. I'm 2 games above 500. Playoff bound. I'm going to solidify it this week. Just got to keep churning out the 2-1s, baby. This is how we make money. I guess I'll just continue the conversation we were already having. My first pick, I'm taking Colts plus 13.5 against the Seahawks. Now, the reasons for this are pretty simple. Again, this is a huge line, almost 2 full touchdowns, against a Colts team that, 4 weeks ago was the favorite to win the AFC. So if Daniel Jones was not hurt, this line would be more like 3. Now, Daniel Jones over a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers could be a 10-point swing. That could be reasonable. I'm not underestimating the chance that Phillip comes in behind a really good offensive line and just gets rid of the ball uber fast and just makes hopefully smart decisions and limits turnovers, and that this Colts offense kind of has a decent day, that they lean on Jonathan Taylor more and he's able to shoulder that load, and that they just, that they score 17 points against the Seahawks defense. If they score 17 points, I think they cover this spread. It's also part of the thing is the Seahawks have done a great job recently. Like I said, they've just been bludgeoning teams. They might be kind of due for just kind of a downer week in terms of performance. Again, I fully expect a Seahawks win, but just because of the talent on this Colts roster and how good the Seahawks have been lately, I think maybe there's a little bit of inflation in this number.
I 100% agree with you. I had this line, and then I thought about it, and I was like, John's going to take this line. Let me switch it up a little bit. But looking at it, you think about what we just talked about, what the game plan for the Colts is going to be, and if Jonathan Taylor runs the ball 35 times, the Seahawks are going to get the ball. If they're successful and able to get a bunch of first downs and take time off the clock, that's going to mean that the Seahawks only get the ball like 6 times this game, 7 times. Like the ability for them to be able to win by 13 is just that much harder if you limit the amount of possessions that they get. So I think that is going to be the key. If they can force turnovers, then I think they'll be just fine in terms of covering this spread. But I do agree with you that the Colts are solid enough. Expect big days from Johnny says Colts 50, Seahawks 3. So I don't know about that one, buddy, but
Love the faith.
Love the faith in the Colts there, but I think it's going to be a lot from Michael Pittman. It's going to be probably a lot from Alec Pierce. I think he's more their slot guy, isn't he? And then Downs is their deep threat.
Uh, Actually, Downs has been playing more in the slot, and Alec Pierce is more their sprinter.
Gotcha.
But those two are semi-interchangeable.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say in it too is that if you look at the last real game the Seahawks have played against the Rams, where their defense struggled, they dominated Matt Stafford. They made him look, he's probably the MVP, and they made him look mid. But Kyron Williams was averaging about 7 yards per carry over the course of that game, and that's a big reason that they were able to win. This is Jonathan Taylor. He's still probably the best running back in football, if not Jahmyr Gibbs. They better slow him down, because if they don't slow him down, the Colts, especially after the DJ injury, the Colts will hand the ball off 40 times if they have that opportunity.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you there. I agree with you on the line, all that stuff. I think that's some good value there, guys. With my first pick, I am going to take a team that needs to win, and that is going to be the Detroit Lions. The Packers and Bears look very formidable in that NFC North, and the Detroit Lions are getting 5.5 points against a Rams team that the Rams are looking great. The Detroit Lions are a little beat up, but Detroit needs this game. They need to at least hang around to, give themselves a fighting chance to win this one. And if they don't win this one, they're basically out of the playoffs. At what are they? What would they be? 8-6, I think. So Detroit is poised to have a good game. I think the Rams getting 5.5 points makes sense. I just think that Detroit, storyline wise, Detroit needs this game. And if they don't, if they get smacked around, it's going to be one of those hey, what are we going to do about this Detroit team? They kind of missed their window. So we will see what happens there. But I like getting 5.5 points for a team that has been, basically a Super Bowl contender for the last 2 years, looking at a tough Rams team, but a good game there. Also, best game of the weekend. You have to think it's going to be within 3 points,
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting thing about this season is it's really just a year of divisions.
Mm-hmm.
The NFC West is an absolute monster. The 3 seed is 9-4. They're definitely the best division of football by record. The NFC North, Packers, Bears, Lions, that's a division that could still hypothetically, put 3 teams into the playoffs. Them and the West are going to be absolutely murdering each other for those 3 wild cards. So it's going to be pretty epic to see how all that shakes out. But those are the 2 divisions in the NFC.
Yep.
In the AFC, it's the AFC South, much improved. 8-5 Colts are the 3 seed. And the AFC West, 6-7 Chargers are the 3 seed, or Chiefs are the 3 seed. So those are the 4 divisions that matter in football when it comes to the wild cards. It's going to be really interesting to see how it all shakes out. But yeah, this is a huge game for the Lions. It's low-key a huge game for the Rams too. But they can't take their feet off the gas. I think this is a great pick. Getting any points over 3 on this Lions team that, when their offense is on, is the best offense in football, I think is very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to shout out our boy Johnny here. He did say Alec Pierce is the deep threat, and he also said best upset picks are Dolphins over Steelers and Saints over Panthers, which are interesting. In my pick'em leagues, in order to gain a little bit on some of my opponents, I did take Dolphins over Steelers and Saints over Panthers. But in terms of value here, in terms of points, I don't think either of us have them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I actually like those calls. I looked at both of those teams as we were making these lists, and I ended up staying away from both of them. I think this is a great week for underdogs. I think there's some really good ones.
Yep.
In other weeks, those 2 would be on this list with the way they've been playing recently. But instead, I'll go on with my second pick, which is not either of those, and it's the Browns plus 7.5 against the Bears.
This one's crazy to me.
There's a degree of this being a emotional hedge. Because my dad's a big Bears fan, and they've had a kind of a magical season, and I'm hoping they can pull it together and make the playoffs for him. But I also just think, I'm doing this for the points. It's over a touchdown. That's why you do this. The Bears' defense has been very up and down. There are some statistics that are encouraging, and there are other statistics which make them look like the worst unit in football. Shador has got this Browns offense looking like it is capable of moving the ball up and down the field, which is more than can be said for the Dylan Gabriel offense. And the Browns' defense is arguably the best defense in football. No, the Texans are. But their defensive line is arguably the best defensive line in football. Myles Garrett is absolutely the best defensive player in the sport. And I think their defense has a chance of really throwing a wrench in this Ben Johnson offense that's looked so solid. And their offense has shown signs of life. I really hope they aren't an actual upset pick over the Bears, but 7.5 points seems like way too many when you got a defense like this that is going to slow the game down and limit possessions. It's also going to be cold. This Browns defense loves playing in the cold.
Yeah, we'll see about how Caleb does in the cold. I'm curious about that one, but I also think in general people kind of accepted that the Bears were good over the last week. I think this was the week that people were like, "Oh, they actually hung around with the Packers. They did lose that game, but they hung around with the Packers." And because of that, I wonder how much people think the Bears are like trying to get right versus how much could it go the other way? Could they like actually kind of tumble down a little bit and struggle here towards the end of the season as they get to these cold games, better defenses, stuff like that? I'm curious because the Bears have been so good all season, but I do think it's a lot on Shedeur, fifth round pick, but maybe a little bit higher talent level, but fifth round pick coming in there and having to fight against that Bears defense is going to be tough because the Bears defense is a little underrated there, I think. So we'll see how this one goes. But I don't dislike the plus 7.5. I understand you're emotionally hedging, so I'm not going to give you too much praise for it.
Yeah, the Bears have 9 wins on the season. They've played 13 games. They've covered a 7.5 point spread 3 times. They dominated the Cowboys, they dominated the Eagles, and they dominated the Saints. But this is a team that wins a lot of close games and, lost 4 games. So 10 out of their 13 games, it's been within 7 points. Why is this one going to be different?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. All right, with my second pick, this line has been fluctuating a lot, so it may have moved since I last looked. But last time I checked, the Buffalo Bills were plus 1.5 against the Patriots, and I just don't believe that the Patriots are the better team yet. Like they're right on the cusp there, similar to the Bears, but they just haven't had their loss. And Buffalo really needs this game. I believe they're 9-4 or 8-5. Like they really need this game here. And they played each other earlier in the season. The Pats won. I think this is the type of game or type of season where those two teams are going to split. I think they're both going to go 1-1 against each other. The Bills are going to be a really, really good wild card team. But I think this is just the type of game that they win. It's going to be in the cold. Josh Allen's going to own the field, and it's just going to go the Buffalo's way. And I just think looking at that one, getting 1.5 points for a team that we've all been, like at the beginning of the season, I think we all thought that the Bills were one of the Super Bowl contenders. And for them to be considered plus 1.5 right now, this late in the season, like they need to turn it on. This is the time for them to go get that win.
Yeah, the Bills have had an up and down season, but they are still... There's been a lot of talk. It looks like Mahomes is going to miss the playoffs. It looks like Lamar Jackson is going to miss the playoffs. Joe Burrow is going to miss the playoffs. He is going to be far and away the most proven quarterback in the AFC playoff picture. Obviously, you can talk about Drake May if you want to, but we haven't seen him do it in many real situations. So
exactly.
It's Josh Allen's race to win. They still have an outside chance at the division. They're 2 full games behind, but they could essentially tie up the tiebreaker, and then it would come down to some other things if they could beat the Patriots and if the Patriots would lose another one of their last 3. So yeah, huge game for the Bills, huge game for just putting themselves back on the map as a true contender. If anybody's commenting on it, this line has been moving around a bit. I think it's now Patriots plus 1.5, but I think this is well within the zone. It's basically a pick 'em at 1.5 points. And we also give ourselves some leeway as to when we pick the points. We're not here to rob anybody. We're just we write these down when we see them. So
I write these down on like Monday mornings. So
yeah.
So they move a little bit.
I do just think the Bills are better than the Patriots. I mean, their defense is kind of a mess. I expect this to be a close game, but I just Josh Allen has that clutch gene. This is a big game for them. I like this pick.
They're two teams built the same way, right? The Pats and the Bills receivers are not that great. Their quarterbacks are what make those receivers great. And then I think the difference is the Patriots have a good defense and the Bills have James Cook, who's just like a really efficient and great running back. So that's like kind of the test here. That's where this divide is going to come from. Johnny also said Bills and Ravens back-to-back for the Patriots for the next 2 weeks, and that's going to determine if they're frauds. So that is very fair, right? Lamar's going to need that win, so that's going to be a big game for the Ravens. Johnny says, give me the Bills easy. I like it. I like that we're all on the same page here. You want to take us home with our final pick because we both agreed on this one?
Oh, right. I forgot we had one of the same ones. I'm glad. It's good. This is our lock for the week because we're sharing it. And we are taking the Chargers plus 5.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs. This one is a bit baffling to me. I believe the Chiefs are eliminated from the playoffs.
I think they have like a 10% chance to make it. They have to have a lot of good things happen to them.
Because they are a full 3 games behind the Chargers. So they not only need to win their last four, which would put them at 10-7, they also need the Chargers to collapse, and then they also need the Bills and or the Texans and or the Colts to collapse. Now, some of those are more realistic than others, but at this point it's looking like Texans, Bills, Chargers are our three wild card teams in the AFC. I don't know why we think the Chiefs are the team that's going to storm back after everything that's gone wrong for them this year. Yeah, I just think the Chargers, their offense is really good. Like, their line's a little beat up, but their running game is really nice. I love Omarion Hampton coming back, but keeping Kamani Vidal involved in the offensive system. I think both those running backs bring something really good to this team. Justin Herbert is a stud. Their defense has some blue chip pieces, even if it's not a blue chip unit. I don't understand for the life of me. Chargers won this game 27-21 when they last played, and when the Chiefs still had light in their eyes. I don't know why this walking dead zombie of a Chiefs team is favored to win by almost 6 points.
Yeah, I think the big thing there is like the Chiefs can win this game, but to get almost 6 points, that's a lot of value there to take the Chargers at plus 5.5, right? That's a whole field goal, and you get backdoor touchdown coverage. Like, all that stuff is really good for us there when it comes to this line and betting on the Chargers plus 5.5 there. I also agree with you. Like, the Chargers have been really good this year, and even though they've had a lot of offensive line injuries, they've still been solid. They've still found ways to win games, and I think they're destined to play the Jaguars every year in the playoffs, so they might as well make that wild card and then play the Jags at that 2 or 3 seed, wherever they make it to, and that's going to be it for them probably. But I just like this is a line that is so coverable, and I like that we were both on it there. People are all in the Chiefs right now, right? And I think it's a trend because people are still not discounting the Chiefs yet. And I think we just kind of have to take that as bettors and be like, hey, the Chiefs are not as good as they have been for the last few years. So let's take this 5.5 points and give it to the Chargers and win this thing, win some money.
Yeah, the least the Chargers have scored since week 6 of this season is 22. They've been living much more in like the 27 range.
Yep.
So they're basically saying they think this Chiefs offense is going to put up 33 points. I don't know, again, why that's going to happen. So, yeah, 5.5 is just way too many points.
Yeah, or they think the Chargers are going to be held down by the Chiefs defense, and in that game that they played, I think it was week 1, like, that didn't happen. So we can't take
put up
that.
27. Yeah, agreed.
So I love this game. All right, we've got a couple more things to talk about. We've got college football. We've got UW playing Boise State in the bucked up LA Bowl at SoFi Stadium this year. That's going to be a fun one. UW is minus 8.5, and that's kind of a clash of two old titans from Chris Peterson's time as a coach. So that's fun to talk about. We'll have more about that. I think that's happening this weekend. I think that's like 2 days away. So that's exciting. I think it's going to be a fun one. It's the last bucked up LA Bowl. I think that they're closing that bowl down after this one, so we get to shut them out. Any thoughts on that one before we jump to WSU?
I think that game's going to be epic. I'm really excited for it. These are two teams that both sniffed the top 25 this season. Looks like UW's still ranked 23, which is a little surprising to me, but hopefully, if they secure this win, they'll end the season ranked in the top 25. It's big for the program. But I like Boise State a lot. I think this is going to be a good game. I will definitely be watching.
Yeah, another note about kind of college football in general with all the coaching carousel stuff. UW is getting more and more like the Jed Fish thing. The fact that he's kind of solidified himself this season and it doesn't seem like he's moving. That feels so nice if you're going to be like a UW player or getting recruited by UW to have that consistency year to year. So that's some exciting stuff there. Looking at Wazoo is plus 3.5 against Utah State in the Idaho Potato Bowl. So good for them. Good for them to make a bowl. Obviously, our Oregon State Beavers did not. But Wazoo against Utah State is going to be an interesting one. It's a little bit of, I guess, what am I trying to think of the word for? It's like they're going to play this year, but I think they also will play next year when they start Mountain West football play, right? Is that what's happening next year?
Yes.
It's kind of like what's the word when you're watching something before it happens, like
a preview.
Preview. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
I'm podcasting, but my brain is off, so that's how it's going.
Yeah, this will be an interesting game. I think Utah State's a good program. I just want to shout out, just looking back at Washington State's schedule, it's a bummer Virginia failed to win the ACC over Duke because there was an opportunity for them to play James Madison, Virginia, and Ole Miss, 3 college football playoff teams. Instead, they'll have to settle for 2. Shout out to James Madison. Shout out to Washington State. I've got no pick. I think Utah State's favored. Both teams are 6-6. both teams are a tiny bit of a mess looking at the D1 scale. So should be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, that's for sure. At least all the players are gonna play. It's not like it's gonna be a Notre Dame type situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll tell you
A
what,
lot of
both
Notre
are
Dame
gonna
shade this
do a
pod.
lot better than Notre Dame this week. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Anyways, Kraken. Last time I looked, they were 11-9-6. I think they won last night, and so they're now 12-9-6. Kraken have been solid all year. They've been. I think they're like sixth though in the Pacific Division. Like the fact that they've got those 6 overtime losses just doesn't mean anything. They're basically 11-15, so it feels like they're better than they are. Hockey people just want you to be excited about the records. It's just not how it works.
They're gaming the system. They've got all these gamers watching it, and they hear 12, 10, and 6, and they're like, "Oh, that's a nice kill death assist ratio." And it's like, no, dude, they're 12 and 16 is what they are. They're 12 and 16. I know it's for the point system, but it's still bullshit. They've got 12 wins and 16 losses. So yeah, sixth in the Pacific, not a real contender. It's nice to see them playing more competitively than they did last year on a night-to-night basis. And yeah, the overtime win against LA yesterday was a fun one. I got part of that
Yeah.
last night.
Moving on, a little bit of college basketball talk. Gonzaga had a nice win over Kentucky last week, and then UW had a huge win over USC after being down, I believe, 18 at halftime. They come back for the program's biggest, or from the program's biggest, like deficit to a win in I think like 25 years or something like that, maybe ever. I don't remember what the exact stat was. But UW is looking really good. Hans Steinbach is looking like a first-round pick candidate. Like he had, in the 2 games against USC and UCLA, I think he averaged 27.5 points and 14 rebounds. Like the guy has just been a monster. He looks so great in terms of his hustle and his drive down low. So that's really good stuff from him there. You want to talk about that Gonzaga and Kentucky game?
Well, first, I think we can't undersell what a huge week it was for UW basketball.
Yeah.
I think to get to 6-3, sweeping. Not sweeping. Going 1-1, but 2 very competitive games against the California schools. I thought it was a huge week for UW. It showed me a ton about who this team is. They are. I think at the start of the year you were pretty excited, and I was a little more like, we'll see. But I see it now. I see it. I think this is a talented team. They're deep. Steinbach is a stud. He went 11 for 12 from the field against UCLA.
It's crazy what he does, man. He's got a 7'1"
Yeah.
wingspan, and I think he's like 6'9", 6'10". Like he's athletic, but just such long arms. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then, Kamari Peterson, Zoom Diallo, Wesley Yates, and Desmond Claude. To me, those are their next 4 best players. And it's their ability to show up on a given night. It was Kamari and Zoom against UCLA, and then Wesley and Desmond against USC. It's just like, who's going to be on next to Hans? We need him to be on. And then if those 2 things are true, then this team can play with anybody, except maybe Michigan. But yeah, I thought it was a huge week for UW. So yeah, big shout out to them. I thought they did great. Also, thank you for losing to UCLA so they could creep back up into the top 25. Gonzaga wants another ranked win, so I appreciate that. On the Zag side, they had a very encouraging week. After the drumming by Michigan, they bounced back in a huge way and smacked Kentucky around.
Absolutely obliterated them.
Yeah, they were ranked 18 when we played them. We knocked them out of the top 25. Such was our haymaker. 94-59. It was everybody offensively. We shot 50% from 3, which is not always going to happen. Shout out to Graham Ike bouncing back in a big way. Shout out to Brayden Huff, who continues to just shoot like 80% from the floor.
He's just like, I have a layup? Let me just put that in real quick. It's crazy.
100%. And shout out to Braden Smith, who, with everything being said, thoroughly outplayed Mario Saint-Supéré in that game. 11.6 rebounds, 6 assists, tied as our 3rd leading scorer. So nice to see him again. I love Mario and I want him to start, but I would love Braden Smith to be a huge part of this team and be, a great presence for us. So it's nice to see him kind of getting his feet underneath him a little bit. I think he's going to be a big help. I didn't even realize we played North Florida. That game totally escaped me. We dominated them. I have nothing really to say about it.
I was going to ask you actually about that one. But you may or may not know, but Ike didn't play in that game, which is crazy to think that you guys dominated by that much and Ike didn't play. But was there? I know he was kind of he seemed a little injured during the Alabama game, shaken up by like his ankle or something like that, or maybe it was his quad. But is he healthy? I just want to make sure he's good for this stretch.
He's totally fine. I'm sure he is a little bit beaten up and bruised. He plays so physically, and that stretch they went through where they played Alabama, Michigan, and Kentucky.
And Maryland, like a bunch of good games.
Yeah, good games, and that was all within a 2-week span. I'm sure he was just feeling a little battered and bruised, and they looked at this game and said, "This is a great game for you to rest, my son." It's also a great example. Like, EK is so important for us, and he's so great, but Braden Huff really can do what EK does offensively. When EK is off the court, Braden just takes a few more shots. Instead of hitting 80% of his looks, because he normally only takes shots he's going to hit, he just hits 65% of his shots, and, being more of the focal point of the offense. So, no, that was a great, easy win. Shout out Davis Fogel, the rookie, having 15 off the bench. But yeah, it was a lock, and we were resting him for UCLA. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits against Campbell between UCLA and Oregon for similar reasons. It's like, okay, he's been getting heavy minutes. Let's rest him on our off days against some of these other teams.
Yep.
Yeah, matchup coming up against UCLA, number 25. That's this weekend, the 13th. I'm going to be there. A chance for Gonzaga to win its first battle in Seattle, which is pretty incredible to think. They've lost, I think, 4 or 5 in a row at this point.
Crazy.
So go in there and do the job for Zags.
Yep. And last but certainly not least in college basketball, we have cast them off into the ocean, but WSU is 3-7. So I just wanted to shout out that record. I have no thoughts on WSU. They've been kind of horrendous, and they will continue to be horrendous until they get things squared away. So
yeah, we will retire them until there's something positive to say. It may be a while. Sorry, Cougs fans. One last thing on college basketball that's so interesting. Gonzaga, good for them. They're all the way up to 8 in the nation, which is pretty impressive considering the trouncing. But I think people just look at Michigan and they see what Michigan is. So glad we didn't get too beat up. Michigan's still number 2 in the nation. I think they are clearly the best team in college basketball from what I've seen. And I tried, guys. I tried to do my best. I paid a witch doctor several $1,000s. I was trying to get the Michigan head coach to get fired for a scandal where he slept with a staffer and then threatened to kill her. But I think the guy got confused and put it on the wrong head coach. So
Etsy Witch went the wrong way,
These cheap Etsy witches, man. You got to specify which sport you want to take down. So unfortunately, Michigan basketball is still alive and well.
Oh, what a week! What a week for basketball. Real quick, just wanted to touch on this. The WNBA is expanding, and so that's going to initiate an expansion draft. So the Storm, we just want to talk about like who they can protect, who is unable to be put into the expansion draft. What's going on with that? So I just wanted to shout out these guys. So currently, Skylar Diggins and Nyeka Ogwumike are ineligible to even be put in the expansion draft like pool of players for the Storm. They didn't get anybody picked last year. So we'll see if anything happens this year. But they've got 5 people that they can protect this year, and I'm assuming that's going to be Ezzy, Dominique, Gabby Williams, and then it's like Jordan Horston and whoever else we want to do. Nika Mule still hasn't played for them, but she is healthy now, and she was our first round draft pick from a couple years ago. So I would expect that to be the 5. But just wanted to shout that out. We've got a few players to keep an eye on here with the Storm.
Well, I think we're in a really great position, for expansion. I think we're benefiting from not being an incredibly deep team, in my opinion.
Yep.
We're pretty top heavy, and I think we're just going to be able to protect all of our major stars. Yeah, having Skylar and Nyeka protected without needing the actual, protection is big for us. But yeah, as long as we can protect Ezzy and Dom and Gabby, I think we'll be fine. We've got our forwards figured out. We just need to find some guards, and we don't have any guards on the roster. I'm terrified of losing, so we should be in good shape.
Yep. I agree. All right, man, we did it. That was a quick and efficient pod. We hope we got all that information out to you guys in a coherent way. So hopefully we didn't talk too fast. Anything to say before I sign us out, brother?
Man, I felt like we were flying at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I can't believe we got through all that in 50 minutes. We're studs. Continue to impress.
We're professional podcasters at this point. All right. Well, for John Carey, I'm Tyler Carey. This has been the Sound Up Seattle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode of Sound Up Seattle, feel free to drop a like, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. You can find us on every podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get that. We usually record Wednesdays or Thursdays, usually around 4 p.m. Pacific time. So just keep that in mind. It depends on our regular work schedules. So we've got other jobs. We've got to keep that in mind. Other than that, you can find Sound Up Seattle on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, all at Sound Up Seattle, all lowercase, all one word. Email us questions, comments, concerns at soundupseattle@gmail.com. You can find me, Tyler, at TyCart50, everywhere it's important. And you can find John
And I'm not playing anything. I am way, way too busy watching sports. This is such a busy time of year in sports.
It's that sports season.
I absolutely love it, but I won't pick up a controller again until college football wraps up.
College football wrapping up in what is it going to wrap up in now? Like February? Is it going to end around the Super Bowl time because of all the playoff games? Like when
Yeah,
does
that's a
college
good
football
point.
wrap up? It's like
Maybe they'll
mid-January.
start sooner so they can still get those in. Yeah, around the mid-January mark, but it'll be interesting. It's always changing.
Yeah, dude, I got to tell you about some of these Pokemon playthroughs that I've been having. We'll talk about that when I'm back in Seattle over break, but it's been quite fun.
Sick. I'm excited to hear about it.
All right, man. With all that being said, let's go Hawks, baby. Finish strong.